Welcome to Linguistics Talks. Today's discussion is on language and culture. We will learn about the components of language, the components of culture, and the connection between the concept of language and culture. We already discussed the idea of the elements of language as phonology, phonetics, morphology or word formation, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. And today I focus on the concept of culture. Culture, by definition, is socially acquired knowledge. Socially acquired knowledge. So, the concept of culture includes values, beliefs, religion, art, music, superstitions, stereotypes, cuisine, lifestyle, fashion, the concepts of time, and taboos, kinship terms. So as you see, it's a very general topic which encompasses different elements. As you see here, we've got the concept of time. Time is a concept that is culturally oriented. Time is culturally specified. It has different definitions in different cultures. There's a diversity of attitudes towards the concept of time. Time is viewed and analyzed through the dichotomy of punctuality and the value of time. In terms of punctuality, some countries are by definition considered punctual. Most specifically, the Western countries like Germany, like France, European countries are considered as precise and accurate and punctual. So in terms of time, these countries and the people in these countries are considered punctual. They are on time. The meetings, for instance, in these countries are held on time. There are rarely ever latecomers. Conversely, in Eastern countries, in Asian countries, we see that, of course, you cannot generalize the idea that all the German people, all French are punctual, but these are some tendencies. In other words, we cannot say that every individual follows the same pattern. However, in Eastern countries and Middle East countries and Asian countries and probably our African countries, there is less punctuality. The second condition, which is of significance with respect to the concept of time, is value of time. In Western countries, in American society, time is gold. Time is very valuable. And people try very hard not to waste their times. On the other hand, in Eastern countries, in Asian countries, in African countries, time is a commodity. It's a material that can be used and even wasted. And time is not that precious. So in some countries, like again, in African countries or Middle East countries or Asian countries, individuals do not pay any attention to the value of time. They waste a lot of time every day. So we see that time is a culturally oriented concept that can be studied in terms of punctuality and the value of time in diverse countries. The second concept that is spelled out as culturally oriented is the concept of color. Color is culturally oriented. Diversity of color, diversity of countries. Diversity of color, diversity of cultures. Also, color can be analyzed in terms of being colorful and non-colorful. India is a very colorful country. I have been teaching in India for a couple of years, and my students were wearing very colorful dress, like the shirt was a combination of probably 20 colors. A very shiny, colorful, glittering way of using the costumes. In Kazakhstan, I reckon it is less colorful because I see they wear like white or black or green or red, and I see less combination of the diversity of colors in Kazakhstan. That is my limited exposure. I have not formed a proper opinion yet, but that is my impression now. So color and color terminologies are also spelled out by the countries. In some African countries, there are only two colors, black and white. So these countries are not very advanced, so their color system is also very restricted. In some advanced countries like America, and especially the digitalized countries, advanced digitalized countries, we see numerous number of colors. So color is specified by particular country and particular people, the way they dress, the way they manifest the significance of colors. Another significant issue with respect to color is the meanings of colors. Colors have got different meanings in different countries. In most countries, black signifies sadness, mourning, and used for funerals. It signifies sorrow, loss, bereavement, and trauma. In some countries, black is not necessarily sad. White, in most countries, signifies happiness and innocence and chastity. But in some countries, it's not necessarily so. Wedding ceremonies, the bride in some countries wear white, in some countries wear black, some countries wear green. So you see these rites and rituals in different countries are using different colors. So color, the significance of color, and the country, related country, and the related culture is specified here. The next term that is absolutely culturally oriented is cuisine. And what we mean by cuisine? Cuisine is the food. So food is simply very, very cultural. Sorry. The cuisine. Again, I happen to live in a couple of countries, and I saw the eating habits. In India, most of the restaurants that you go and visit, you see at the menu, there's a veg and non-veg. Veg is vegetarian, non-veg is non-vegetarian. And the availability and the diversity of vegetarian meals in India is basically impressive. Probably in one restaurant you have literally 100 different kinds of vegetarian meals, which is incredibly impossible in other countries. So cuisine is an indication of anybody's culture. In Kazakhstan, the cuisine is a little bit related Turkish cuisine, as far as I know. I saw the doner, I saw samsa, but the food that is very culturally specific is besh parmak. That is very Kazakh, I reckon. I haven't heard about this in other countries. So this is cultural. So eating habits, the Americans, for instance, you see that some of them are huge, they are massive, and they eat massive amount of food. In Kazakhstan, I see people are mostly on a diet because they like to look slender and slim and fashionable and stylish, basically. So this is the difference. Food habits, eating habits, cuisine. So some in Italy, the pizza is absolutely the famous food. Some of them are international, but some of them are very really culturally specific. In Turkey, probably lahmacun and chorba, fantastic, and specifically, I reckon specifically related to Turkish cuisine, also doner, kebab, pehlavan kebab, different kinds of kebab also. The Persian cuisine is also different kinds of kebabs and rice, as we call them, pilav or pulov in here, I reckon. Again, there's something more about cuisine in the Thai salads, Thai and Japanese. Sushi, for instance, is very Japanese. So there are some food, Lebanese, they have a food called falafel. I haven't found falafel in Kazakhstan yet. Falafel is fantastic. Have you got falafel in here? No falafel. Fantastic. It's easy to make. So you can check the falafel and you can cook it. Falafel. Also that's about the culture and the relationship between cuisine as a part of culture and culture-specific food. The next one is massive. Religion is a part of culture. A very, very vital, significant part of the culture is, any culture is religion, religious practices, religious ideas, religious ideologies, rites and rituals, ceremonies, prophets, imams, mosques, churches, different practices. I think in Kazakhstan something, I'm not sure, but probably, is it 80% Muslim country? I saw different statistics, 80%, around 80% most probably, Muslim people. So it's the same in, for instance, similar to Turkey, similar to Arabian countries, I reckon, and also similar to Jakarta, Indonesia. So basically, you see the importance of religion, religious language, religious books, religious costumes and garments can be studied. Whatever is related to the religious books and scripts. What else? Religious conversations, religious sermons, religious traditions, and the best ones, religious holidays. Religious holidays are also important. So religion plays an important part also. The next one is Sapir and Whorf hypothesis. Very simple. Sapir and Whorf, is it possible? Anyways, Sapir and Whorf hypothesis, which signifies the idea that language determines thought. Easy peasy. Language determines thought. The way you think and the way you perceive the world around you is determined by the repertoire or your linguistic repertoire that is supplied to you. or the vocabulary items, the terminologies that are in your language shape your mentality. In other words, language determines thought. Language specifies your thinking. Language specifies your perception of the world. Language determines your perception of the world. That's the hypothesis specified by Sapir and Worf, and that is called linguistic determinism. The typical examples that are always given are the example of snow. Snow as perceived by an Eskimo, and snow as perceived by somebody from Saudi Arabia or Africa. An Eskimo man might perceive 100 different kinds of snow, like good snow, bad snow, snow with wind, snow in the morning, late snow, beautiful snow, night snow, different kinds of snow. Probably even 100 perceptions of the snow. For a man from Saudi Arabia, conversely, he might have little conception of the term snow. This is linguistic determinism. The other example is camel. Do you know camel? What is camel in your language?
Verblut.
Verblut?
Or tüye in Kazakh.
Tüye. Yeah. For a man in Saudi Arabia or in Arabian countries, they've got probably 100 words for camels, because camels are prevalent and common in the Sahara and in Arabian countries. Like beautiful camel, small camel, big camel, camel which brings good luck, strong camel, big camel. Different camels have got different names. Young, old, female, male, all these different terminologies are brought about and manifested in Arabian languages. However, for an Eskimo, they have no perception of camels. So this is what we mean by linguistic determinism or Sapir and Worf hypothesis. The next topic that I want to discuss is taboos. What do we mean by taboos? Taboos are expressions, words and expressions which are to be avoided, must be avoided, because they create shame, they create guilt, they create rudeness, they signify impoliteness. And this topic of taboo is also very cultural. Taboo terms are categories. So there are different kinds of taboo terms. 1, religious taboos. 2, gender taboos. 3, taboos related to disease and illnesses. Taboos related to what other different types of taboos, social taboos. So one is religious taboos. As definition, this taboo religious taboo might lead to blasphemy. Blasphemy means removing or violating the chastity and holiness of Prophet or Imams. You should not use them. For example, don't use the name of God. Don't say anything bad against Prophet, anything rude against the Imams. This is taboo, and this is basically cultural. Taboos in different countries are different. In England, there is no religious taboo in Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, because you can go to Hyde Park and literally there is a place called Speaker's Corner. You can have your stool, and you can literally say anything against any religious person, religious concept, religious ideology, no problem. But in Kazakhstan, you have to be very careful, because it's a religious country. You have to respect religion. You should not say anything wrong or anything inappropriate, improper against religious concepts. This is what we call taboos. So taboos in different countries are different. In some countries, like Christian countries, the taboos are Christian taboos. You should not say anything against Jesus Christ, against Christmas, against Easter, against God, Mary, Holy Spirit. These are Christian taboos. So taboos are diverse in different countries. In Israel, the taboos are different and diverse. In African countries, the taboos are different. Let's go to the stereotypes. What are stereotypes? I think it's not possible to see stereotypes. Anyways, the stereotypes are general assumptions and general ideas about certain categories, certain communities, certain individuals. And they are cultural. The stereotypes in different countries are diverse. For example, the stereotypes in England are different from stereotypes in America, different from stereotypes in Kazakhstan, stereotypes in Africa. Stereotypes are scientifically unreliable, and they are not scientifically approved, they are not valid, they are not reliable, they are not documented, and must be avoided. For example, all the girls are vulnerable. No. Some girls, most of the girls are very strong. All the Scottish people are stingy. You know stingy? They don't want to pay money. Tight-fisted. Wrong stereotypes. All the Americans are huge and fat. Not necessarily. Wrong. Avoid the stereotypes. All the Africans are what? Avoid all the stereotypes. All the guys are aggressive. Not necessarily. Some guys are very nice, very kind, very sweet. Avoid this stereotype. All the people from Castellan are what? I don't know the stereotype, but the stereotypes are wrong. So avoid the stereotypes or categorization of certain communities or certain people or certain individuals and categorizing them as the same, having the same common characteristic is wrong. The next one is gender. Gender is also culturally oriented. We have gender-specific language, gendered language, gender-preferred language, and gender also is very specifically culturally oriented. By definition, gendered language, male-oriented language, female-oriented language. So what is male language? Most of the time, the idea is that male language is informal, sometimes impolite, sometimes aggressive, but the female language is polite, is formal, is basically more indirect. So differences between the discourse of male and the discourse of the female. So the way women are presented, presentation of women, the presentation of female part of the society, women's rights, women's attitudes, women's lifestyles are entirely different in different countries. So in democratic countries, there is equality and equity, inclusive education in terms of gender. So any cultural phenomenon like gender, like race, like social background, education must lead to inclusive education. So I recapitulated the whole discussion today. The talk was on language and culture, the relationship between language and culture, and the fact that language is intimately connected to culture. Language as a part of culture. And culture includes ideologies, beliefs, lifestyles, cuisine, color, religion, gender, stereotypes. Sometimes, your values, your norms, your perspectives are all cultural. And there is a very intimate relationship between the culture of a country and the language of the country. In multicultural societies like Kazakhstan, like Canada, you see the diversity of language as well as the diversity of culture. So the fact is that as a scientist or as a student, we need to be conscious and aware of cultural diversities, the elements of culture, and intercultural communication. And in terms of intercultural communication, we need to know and respect the differences and the diversities of lifestyles, diversities of ideas, diversities of social practices, diversities of religious practices, diversities of cuisine, differences of ideas, difference of attitudes, differences of gender as part and parcel of culture. That is the bottom line. And again, I reiterate the idea that the successful intercultural communication requires understanding the differences, understanding the diversities of culture, the diversities of lifestyle, diversities of religion, diversities of language. Thank you so much for your attention and have a lovely evening. Thank you so much. And again,